Want to welcome you to this presentation. My name's Bo Willette, and I'm a pastor, author, musician, and chaplain to professional hockey. Attended Cal State University Northridge for music, was actually a music major. Really enjoy music a ton, and wrote my first book, Porn and a Pastor, back in 2007 that you can pick up on Amazon if you'd like. It's not a big read. I want to give you just a titch of a background about me. I was born in the San Fernando Valley in Southern California. And if you know anything about Southern California and the San Fernando Valley, it is the central place for the pornography industry. So my dad worked in that industry for a period of time, and he was a typesetter for porn rag, just so you know. Some people get curious when I say that because they're like, whoa, you know. But me and my wife have grew up out there, and we have had friends that have acted in pornography. So we have different perspectives than a lot of people when it comes to pornography, because when you have family members that are involved in the industry and people that act in it, you've seen them on screen having sexual encounters, then you kind of look at things a little different from a different lens for sure. Um, anyway, I'm real blessed to have a son and a daughter, and they are definitely the apple of my eye, and love them to death. And just blessed with my wife for a long time now. We've been hanging out. So really great to be with you guys today. This is an interesting topic, the one of pornography and sex trafficking. And really this one's about the link between the two, the link between pornography and sex trafficking. And we have to always wonder why we're talking about this topic, but we're going to kind of hammer home some things throughout the presentation. And one of them is the different manipulations in pornography. So this presentation is a focus on popular porn. So I'm not going to use just really weird rogue porn, but I am going to show you that the most popular kinds of porn is the porn that I'm going to kind of show you. And I will not show nude pictures or anything like that, so don't get your hopes up out there. I will keep things somewhat discreet, but I'll let you guys definitely see a clear picture of what I'm getting across in this presentation. Some of the things that pornography shows is that young women want sex no matter what. It also shows that the younger the person, the easier to manipulate into having sex. The third thing is that pornography can glorify abuse in youth culture, sexual abuse in youth culture. It can be predatorial and glorify predatorial behavior. And the last thing I wrote down is it's making the abuse of women a sexual fantasy. So in this little slide, you get to just see something kind of interesting, and I'll point these out with my little pen pointer here on PowerPoint. But you get to see just the different symbolisms that, you know, pornography uses quite a bit. Morality is always negotiable, right? The old apple, the Garden of Eden kind of picture, right? The forbidden fruit. Look at her face, right? It's kind of interesting. She's like, what? You know, what's happening? Yeah. Kind of this shock. And then there's kind of signs in pornography that are really clear. Manipulations, virgin manipulations, right? So there is always a play on the idea of chastity, purity, spoiling a person. You know, there's something sexy in that in pornography, and you'll see this play out. So, but there is a myth that we've got to just clear up right now, and that myth is that the country would be better if there was no pornography in it. So some people think that's the answer, is if you just ban porn, then it'll be fine. But let's just go over this real quick. Do you want to go live in Iran? How about Saudi Arabia, China, Ethiopia, North Korea? So these are places most people do not want to go live in for various reasons. But one of the reasons is the way people are treated, specifically the way women are treated. So do they have equal rights in these countries? Can women, are they considered property? Are they considered less than men? And these are questions that would be answered at times in the affirmative. And so the answer can't just be ban pornography. There's got to be more to it. So sex trafficking is serious. It's such a serious issue that we need to discuss it. And I'm going to give you two papers, two PDF papers. One of them is going to be from a pro-porn feminist, Wendy McElroy, who's very popular. And then the other one is going to be from the Projection Project Journal of Human Rights and Civil Society. And this is by Johns Hopkins University, the Protection Project. That's from that university. And that one is a anti-porn article. So those are two PDFs that Melissa will hopefully get to you so you can read over to. They're not long and you can get an idea of things yourself. And that's the important thing, is that I just give you information and you guys can make decisions, good decisions in your life. So sex trafficking is a serious issue, and no matter what your thoughts are on pornography right now, we can usually agree that sex trafficking is wrong and should be stopped. So 99% of the buyers when it comes to sex trafficking are male. So we definitely want to look at this issue and see what pornography says about men, and me, especially. And it does say something, so we want to look at that. So sex trafficking, just defined really quick, is it occurs when someone uses force, fraud, or coercion to cause a commercial sex act with an adult, or causes a minor to commit a commercial sexual act. And so the only difference between a minor and a non-minor is that a minor, if they do the sex act, it doesn't matter if there is any fraud, force, or coercion. It is sex trafficking if you are in charge of that minor and they are doing something with your consent. So that is the difference. So again, sex trafficking occurs when usually someone's using force, fraud, or coercion, but with a minor, it just needs to be a commercial sex act. Okay. So what is a commercial sex act, and is pornography a commercial sex act? What do you guys think? Because pornography is a commercial sex act, right? Because a commercial sex act is just any sex act on account of which anything of value is given to or received by any person, right? Anything of value includes a lot of things: money, food, lodging, shelter, transportation, drugs, etc. So pornography, there is an exchange. Usually someone has a contract in the porn industry and money is being exchanged. So the book that I make available, or to you, in the sense of just understanding that the book is out there, is a anti-porn book called Big Porn Inc. And this is a collection of articles that are written by some people that are in this presentation, but it all is coming from a anti-porn view. So you can get that book if you're interested in this topic a little more. Pornography industry has changed over the years, by the way. It has grown into a billion-dollar industry, and as in almost $1 trillion industry. And it keeps changing itself and remaking itself. But today you have companies like MindGeek that really own most of the tube sites that are popular. So if you've ever gone to Pornhub or Xvideos or the things of that nature that are tube porn oriented, like YouTube kind of fashion, Well, that's run by MindGeek. And so when you go to MindGeek, you won't see some hairy-chested man with a gold necklace sitting by a pool with a margarita in his hand and a camera filming porn. You are going to see this, a global company that is a leading exclusive technologies driving company. And they are not so much into porn at all. They're just into making money. And since porn and sex, is a driver in humanity, it's what we do as human beings. We have sex. That's what we do. Doesn't mean we have to do it all the time, but it's something that we usually do in our life. Pornography is uh, a pull on most humans, and for curiosity, for education, and simply for entertainment or relaxation, many things. So there's a lot of money because there's a lot of traffic. So that's how pornography looks today. So how can pornography involve sex trafficking? So think about this for a minute. Okay, if pornography is a commercial sex act, how can it be or involve sex trafficking? What do you think? Can you think through it for a sec? Well, let's look through it together. So you can force someone to participate as a performer of the production of pornography, stripping, cam work, audio work, audio sex work, sorry. You can have someone participate volitionally as a performer if they're under the age of 18. So what that means is that if they're a minor and they want to do it and you let them do it, that can involve being involved in sex trafficking right there. Because when you're a minor, remember, there doesn't have to be force or coercion or anything like that. It's just that they're participating in the commercial sex act. So another idea is that the forced participation of the technical side of the production of pornography. So if someone's being forced or coerced to hold the lights or make this or do this on the internet technically, or things of that nature for the porn industry, that can be considered sex trafficking. The predatory exposure to pornography to one under the age of 18, which is considered grooming. So if someone's a minor and they are being exposed to pornography in a predatory fashion, of course, then meaning in a way that would prime the pump, meaning get them ready to have sex themselves, then that can be considered sex trafficking too. So yeah, so pornography itself could very well be sex trafficking. So the idea of grooming, since I mentioned that's important just to kind of touch base on, and that is using pornography as a teaching tool, as a way of instructing a child about sex and what is wanted from a predator. So you can understand that, right? Someone shows someone a sexual act and says, hey, this is what I want you to do. Using pictures of videos to justify his abuse and convince the victim that what she is being asked to do is normal. So it's normalizing a behavior. Using pornography to break down a child's resistance towards being used. The more they see it, basically, is the more they kind of go, oh, okay, that's normal. Pornography is an inspiration for sexual crimes. The perpetrator has read the manuals and manuscripts at night and uses these as a recipe book by day. So pornography gears people up. The perpetrator, they read up on sexual acts through pornography, and then at night they go to do it. So it gets them ready to go and abuse. So, and this is, when you show someone pictures over and over and over, or you watch something over and over and over, it becomes a normal thing. And so we see that all the time in education and our entertainment world. So we have to ask the question in pornography, what is it teaching us? And that's a sober question. So some people, like Melissa Farley, who is against porn, and she's a feminist, an anti-porn feminist. So in feminism, you have different takes on pornography. So this person's an anti-pornography, anti-prostitution activist out of San Francisco. And she goes over why pornography to her is infinite prostitution. And that is pornography itself, she says, is an act of prostitution. It is selling your sexuality, if you will, your body for money. The conditions leading to entry into pornography are much the same as conditions leading into the entry into prostitution. So just as a lot of people enter into prostitution poor, so she's saying many people enter into pornography under the same conditions, poverty of mind, poverty of spirit, emotional abuse, those kind of things. So she also has a belief that pornographers, those that film, are specialty pimps. And she says research provides the evidence for the harmful effects of pornography. So stress disorders, issues of behavior, more sexual deviant actions that are oppressive on other people, these type of ideas. So this is pretty popular, this kind of idea. You'll see this quite a bit in literature on the topic. So the pornography to trafficking bridge, we already seen primarily how pornography can be used for sex trafficking. But how do Johns use porn? So a John is the person in the car, right? You have a young person here. We don't know the age of this person very well. Could be a minor. And in Victor Malarich's book called The Johns, he says the message is clear. If prostitution is the main act, porn is the dress rehearsal. Pornography becomes a training ground for Johns. When pornography is the source of sex education for our generation, the natural outcome is a culture of commercial sex and sex trafficking. So what he's getting at basically is this guy, goes home, he watches porn all day or all night or something, and then he gears up and he gets in his car and he goes out and wants to do it. So he wants the porn star experience kind of thing, right? So it becomes a gear up for him. So that's what people are saying. That's one argument, right? Is that pornography becomes a source of sex education for people. And what they see in pornography is what they want. So they see the fantasies of pornography, the kind of sexual acts, and they go, man, I want to do that. And so they go find a person to purchase. So 80% of prostitutes say Johns show them pornography in order to illustrate specific sex acts that they want them to perform. So pornography, no doubt, is being used and in prostitution. So Professor Jensen is out of the University of Texas at Austin, wrote a great book called Getting Off. And I think everybody should read that at some point, no matter what view you have. It's just a good book. It's very anti-porn, but it really is contemplative. As you can see from these quotes, he really tries and does a good job, I think, of articulating some of the issues with the current porn culture. And he brings out in his writing a lot of the issues when it comes to the racial aspects of pornography or the way sex is done in pornography and the name calling that happens in pornography. Things that we would look at in real life and we would say, man, that is wrong. Like, you shouldn't be treating people that way. It is all game on in pornography. So things are normalized. So group sex becomes normalized. Anal sex becomes normalized. Sexual fluids everywhere become normalized. Wife swapping becomes normalized. These things, having sex with your stepmom, stepdad, mom, dad, brother, sister, these things all become normalized. And so it it really begs the question of where are our hearts? So the issue of sex trafficking is always one of the heart. I think all you students would agree with that. It's not just an issue with pornography, because we saw that in countries that are trying to ban pornography. It's not like they don't have sexual issues. They might have a ton of sexual issues in those countries. Um, it has something more to do with a deeper condition in the human heart and soul. So there is an ethical war on porn, for sure, that paints a picture that we want to just I'm trying to get across to you guys. So what does Robert Jensen say about uh, pornography and sex trafficking? Pornography is a form of storytelling. We know that stories help shape people's lives, attitudes. We know that people's attitudes shape behavior. We don't doubt this when we express concern about the effects of commercial advertising and political propaganda. Why will we doubt it about pornography, especially since the messages of pornography are powerfully reinforced by those images' role in arousal and orgasm? So he makes a good point there. We have to look at this, right? Does pornography normalize rape? Does pornography eroticize male sexual aggression? So the question really is, what does it normalize, and is that good? And that's his point that he makes. So Catherine McKinnon's another one on who really kind of a mentor to Professor Jensen, and she did a lot of work back in the 70s and still does on this issue. And she talks about consuming pornography as an experience of bought sex, and thus it creates a hunger to continue to purchase and objectify and act out what is seen. For some, this means objectifying their wife, girlfriend, or acquaintances. For others, this means turning to the world of commercial sex act. Now, what sometimes breaks down this argument on the other side is, and maybe you're thinking about it a little bit, but I'm going to point out something for you guys. She says consuming pornography is an experience of what? Bought sex. Well, today, pornography is not bought sex, right? Pornography is free. People consume it just for free. People don't need to pay for it or really look hard to find it. It is just free material that's out there. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be bought sex. And her point is that bought sex, if you're buying it, then you continue to want to purchase and objectify. But people watch it for free, and they can still objectify, whether it's bought or whether it's free. Some people will objectify and act out on that objectifying, and then other people will not, meaning they won't act out against a real person in a violent or derogatory way. But notice that this means objectifying their wife, girlfriends, acquaintances. Well, she's kind of missing something, and that is women watch porn and they produce porn. So when Catherine McKinnon was very much involved in anti-feminism, or pro-feminism, anti-pornography, women weren't really producers of porn. It was very much a male-dominated world, but today it's much different. So the arguments kind of change a little bit. So we also hear another important discussion topic on the issue of pornography that I'm just going to bring to your attention, and that is the science, your brain on porn. This is very popular. This is Wheaton College, a religious college, where Dr. William Struthers says the continued use of pornography literally erodes the prefrontal region of the brain, responsible for our willpower. When our prefrontal lobes are working properly, then we have executive control, of the process going on in our brains. It is where we do our abstract thinking, making goals, solve problems, regulate behavior, and where we suppress emotions, impulses, and urges. So if you watch too much porn, then you break down this lobe area, and that's kind of the idea, right? Then you have run into behavioral problems. There's a lot of controversy with these ideas, but I'm giving it to you. According to 2013 Cambridge University study, when the brain activity of compulsive pornography was compared to a control group, the ventral stratum reward centers of the brain reacted to seeing explicit content the same way an alcoholic's brain reacts to seeing advertisements for alcohol. So, you hear this before, your brain is getting rewired when you watch pornography. And it is like a drug. You've probably heard that before, like heroin or like cocaine or those type of things. But let me give you some kind of problems with this. And that is, let me give you just a little scenario sometimes when that'll help you out. But say you have a person who is married and they have sex every day. Would you consider them a sex addict? I'm going to give you 5 seconds to answer. Okay, now I'll tell you another scenario. Now you have a woman who likes to have sex every day as well. She's not married. She's not even monogamous. And she very well could be polyandry or polyamory for all we know. And so she has a different person that she's with, but she does have a small pool of people that she engages in intimate behavior with. Is she a sex addict? Okay. Well, hopefully you see a little bit of the issue. Usually in our minds, when someone is in a monogamous marriage, we tend to think that there's no addiction within that scenario. They're having sex every day, that's fine. But if someone's not in that traditional format sexually, then they must be an addict. So what's defining sexual addiction is morality, is how we're looking at if something's a moral act or it's not a moral act. And that's usually not how we define addiction, like to drugs. Like if someone's a heroin addict, they can't do drugs at all, heroin at all. If someone's a coke addict, you don't want them doing coke. If someone's an alcoholic, you don't want them drinking alcohol. There is no gray area. There is no, hey, a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of cocaine, a little bit of heroin. But when it comes to sex addiction, we're kind of confused on that topic, because usually when someone's a sex addict, what we're saying is that it's not that we never want them to have sex again. We just want them to change their sexual behavior to fit a certain morality. And so that is the argument for our next person that I introduce you to, and that's Dr. David Ley, who's a clinical psychologist, pro-porn writer, and he has written some books. The Myth of Sex Addiction is a very good read, and very controversial read, of course, because he's on this other side of the fence. And when I was asking him, because we have talked before, and he's a guy who's been on Dr. Phil on these issues and other panels, quite a speaker and very proficient in this topic. But when I asked him about porn and sex trafficking, he said the porn and trafficking thing, it's a hyperbolic claim. Mostly the trafficking thing is a big left-wing target. And if you challenge it, they paint you as a mean, awful person, so I've steered carefully around it. The problem is that in the U.S., sex trafficking is really not a real issue, and sex trafficking laws and claims are being used to enact greater restrictions on sexual commerce, and especially prostitution. There are wild claims of sex trafficking and porn, but they're unproven. Outside the US, claims of sex trafficking have also been hyperbolic and used in exploitive, exaggerated ways by charity organizations to raise funds. The problem is there are clear examples of sex trafficking. The girls kidnapped in Boko Haram, for instance, to marry fighters, and in Asia, documented cases of children in sex brothels from which porn is sometimes generated. So you can't claim all sex trafficking is a myth. The answer for us, at least, is to have a legalized, transparent, and ethical porn industry to prevent exploitation within it, and we should be suspicious of international porn from regions without human rights protection. So he has written a book called Ethical Porn for, you see it right there, and he talks about ethical porn. So you might hear about that in the future, that there is ethical porn. And it's just talking about not watching illegal porn, making sure that the people that are in the porn are legitimately wanting to be there, that kind of thing. So, porn obviously and sex trafficking are so big that they have reached into our political system. And I won't get into everything right now with that, but if you study prohibition and you study that very well, you'll understand that that was passed 100 years ago through public health issues. That's how it was seen, where alcohol was banned, and that's kind of the same road that they're starting to go on now with pornography being a health hazard. So you'll hear that idea too, that it's a health hazard, and that is the political way to try to get something taken out of society. So whether it is good or bad to do that, that's something we could talk about another time. So we're going to skip over some of the court cases, even though I find them way cool, and you can understand obscenity and how the United States government has ruled on it. So when you go through this from all the way to the 70s that I do and go into the present age, you can see why we get to where we're at today. There's a lot of gray area, and there's lobbyists that are for both the pro-porn and the anti-porn positions. So a lot of lobbying that goes on. But we want to get into the current porn trends. So when we're talking about sex trafficking and pornography and the link between the two, we have to look at porn trends and see where they're at, and look at the most popular kinds of porn as well, and see what people are watching, and is there a place to be concerned. So today, many producers and owners, and the second, porn for women, this is the top trending search throughout the year. So not only are porn women producing, but they also are viewing in increased numbers. Hentai and cartoon porn are very popular. The growing popularity of cam girls, which is a billion-dollar industry worldwide. And a very recent trend is men having sex with MILF women or MILF women. I'm not going to get into what that stands for, but you can kind of figure that out. Video game porns like Fortnite and other gaming characters is very popular. And incest continues to be one of the most popular genres of pornography. So again, we're always asking the question, or we should be asking, what does porn normalize? Is that good? Is it good for society? What does it say about man's views of women? So the statistics are pretty popular, or pretty forwarding on Pornhub. They do this every year where they put out some of the latest trends. And lesbianism is high. Why? Because not only do men like to watch women, but women like to watch women as well. So that is extremely high. But you see the other ones on there is the hentai, the moms, stepmoms, mom again. So a lot of moms in there. And then young people, of course. And hentai is very young. We'll see that too. So you see a lot of people are into young people and family members. So That's something to think through. And then you see that the top searches in 2008, you can see some of the same things. And you can see some of the common kind of traditional things that are in there, right? But you see cartoons in there too. Fortnite's in there as well. So you see these trends just, uh, you know, um, kind of becoming more and more popular. And we always have to ask, what is becoming more popular? What do people like to watch? And there it is. So we always have to ask the question, can you distinguish fantasy from reality? So some people can and some people can't. Some people are satisfied with simply watching pornography and others are not. Pornography revs them up to find that porn star experience. So when we look at some of the pictures that I'll show, you'll see kind of what we're talking about. Let's look at these themes. And that's what we really want to look at is themes. What do the themes say? What do they tell us? What is it affirming? Um, and so you see older men, young women, woman in tied up. You kind of have a businessman right here kind of look to it all. You have these girls that look like they're trying to get away from someone. This kind of thing going on. So we're going to look into these popular things. So the first one we're going to look to is uh, virtual child pornography, VCP. And virtual child pornography is not child pornography in the sense that these people are of age. They're not under the age of consent. But what the industry does is it is allowed through the various law cases that have taken place to allow this kind of um, videos and this kind of promotion. So you have things like Teenage Fantasy 2. How many is there? I have no clue. But then you have Teenage Sex Addicts, right? Then you have Yesterday I Was a Child, Today I Was a Woman. She's 17 and what is she? She's anxious, you know. So very interesting, right? And this is from the 70s, so you see how risky that was. An older man, younger woman. All right, the idea of that, you're a teenage woman, you're ready. And so we get into Lolita, which Lolita is a word that was taken from a book that was written by Vladimir Nabokov back in the 50s. And he was a Russian American novelist, and his book was on Times Magazine's list of the 100 best novels published from 1923 to 2005. It had in it a literature professor who was obsessed with a 12-year-old who was part of his family. He was the stepfather, and they become sexually involved. And this term Lolita, because that was her name, her kind of given name, nickname, if you will, his private nickname for her, this has become kind of a byword now in the pornography industry for young, innocent girl. So you kind of see these pictures again of young women. They look really young, and if they're 20, they're made to look like they're 15. These kind of things. The titles of a lot of the popular pornography in this genre all have to do with babysitters or teens love this, teens love sex, desperate teens, mother-daughter exchange club, very popular. Again, people love to watch youth, and so we see that. Is it good? Would you say, is it good? What's your opinions on that? What's your thoughts on that? What does it say about people? What does it say about us when we, the loss of innocence, these kind of things. So, women producers and popular porn, a fascination with youth. So, this isn't just some guys getting together and putting this together. You have popular producers of pornography, like Becky LeBeau, and she uses the most popular of women that are in the adult entertainment world. And you'll see that even her titles, even though they're older, they're totally of age, but you see their titles, right, are all in this kind of way, this kind of genre of young people being, naughty, kind of stuff. And again, just what does it say? What does it speak of, right? And then you see more of this, and it just continues on and on. But this is what would be considered pseudo child porn. So that's kind of the idea, is that it's child porn in the sense that it's always showing people that are right there at the cusp. You don't really know. You get that idea that they could be under the age, but it's kind of kinky. It's kind of cool. Right here, this girl says Piper learns that if you dress like a slut, you're treated like a slut, right? Looks like her dad there, right? She's going to be punished, right? How is she going to be punished? Well, it's going to be sex. That's what it's going to be. And she's going to love it. And that's the message, is that, you get treated bad. You have sex with your stepfather, your dad. He punishes you that way. It's good. It's a good thing. So Hustler came out with its magazine years and years ago called Barely Legal. Are you sure I'm old enough? Right? Um, so the message just continues, as you can see. So what does this kind of pornography make us commit? Or does it make us commit the crime of sex trafficking? What do you guys think? Well, the answer is going to be what? No. Most people who watch pornography, even of this kind, right? You're not going to commit the crime of sex trafficking. Does it normalize this kind of behavior? That's the question that we have to ask. What does this say to us here? That women that are in chains around their neck, they are pets. Is it good to think of women as pets, possessions? That is how some people still live in the world, but is that right? Is it good? Is it beneficial to women and to society at large? So pseudo child porn is very popular, and we always have to ask the question, what does it normalize in the society? Another popular genre that we mentioned is cartoons, right? So what does cartoon pornography normalize? Does it normalize the things that were on the previous slides? Slavery, rape, those kind of things, abuse. So cartoon pornography is another pseudo child porn, in that they're always showing kids that are very young looking. So when you go through this, you'll say, whoa, these look way young, man, this is crazy. Yeah, tell me about it. Um, and that's right. So these are of course not real people. So they're depictions of people that look under the age. But the government has gone to war with these issues of free speech and obscenity. And this is where we're at today, right now. So this is a ramification of free speech versus Ashcroft in 2002. And yeah. So anime and hentai, another popular genre, right? And what does it show? Again, pseudo child porn, right? Does it normalize abuse? Well, if you've known anything about hentai, the answer is going to be, again, yes. Look at what some of this says. Such a bad little girl. I shall punish you. She's crying with joy because we're so good. The more you fight, the more excited I get. So things that we would see in society is absolutely horrifying. We see are put out as normal behavior in anime and hentai. Not all anime. I don't want to be harsh on anime, of course. There's some great anime series, but there are some even anime that is very risky, and we have to wonder, what is it normalizing? So the messages in a lot of the hentai we see are just downright abusive in nature. And you have a man who he's thinking over the consequences of having intimacy with an underage girl in a hentai show. And so the perpetrator says, I might be all over the news tomorrow, but how can I resist? The victim says, it really hurts, but this pain makes me happy. So again, is it grooming? Is it grooming a victim? Is it normalizing a behavior for a victim? Is it making pain pleasurable for a victim? Perpetrator talking, you should release the hidden power within you. Just let it happen. The victim, and the you victim, meaning this is to the victim, you have been cast off like that, went through the hell of having forced sex every day. So some of these videos just flat out talk about being sex trafficked, right? Being forced, coerced into having sex at a young age. Or it doesn't matter if you're forced, it can be any age, it's sex trafficking. So the world of gaming, popular, right? How many people play Fortnite? But now you have Fortnite pornography games and the like. And what do these games normalize? That's what we have to ask. Now, the gaming world is a huge 90 billion US dollars by 2020, they project. So by this year, which is absolutely insane, right? There are more than 2.5 billion video gamers all over the world. Huge market. And when there's markets, there's money. And when there's money, there will be things like pornography for sure involved. So these sex games are games that play on people's narcissism, right? What you want, realistic action. You can control. You can get what you want. You can choose everything about the person you want to have sex with, abuse. You can do whatever you want with them. It is all animation, and it is all good to go. So that's the idea. So is it childlike innocence or harmful manipulation? So there are messages within games all the time. Nowhere does it say relationships have to be only between two people. I know you humans have a lot of rules about sex, but the truth is sex is good for you. Right and wrong are things people make up to judge others when they need to. Like a person saying that eating meat is murder while ignoring the plants are also alive. So there's all kinds of the kind of philosophical ideas that are floating in here. Anyway, um, there it is. This last one's a little sketchy. Guessing by my appearance, I guess you saw someone naked. It is simple. You just have to have sex with this person. Wow. Right? You see someone naked, you have sex, it's all good. So glorifying the most horrible circumstances in video and PC games. So some of the worst things that, you get to see some of the things that are said, right? With brutality, Corbin molest Carly. What do you want to say? If you want to rape me, you can do it, right? So you meet people like this in the video games, right? And this is very common, right? Where body parts are magnified to just exacerbated in massive levels. So a high school student at a private school. What will she do for better grades? That's the teacher, right? Yeah, there he is. What is he going to do to her? You should be thankful to me. Instead of punishing you, I'm treating you with pleasure and kindness. Oh, okay. It's just a game, right? The teacher says you have an amazing body. Teacher begins with a strip tease. That's what he tells her. So, and she says she hates her life, right? She gets molested. And as always, don't tell anybody about this. He says he walks away. Here's him walking away, and she's over in this direction, just laying on the ground. If you don't, you know the consequences. So flat out abuse right there, and rape. And these are the things that we have to again look at and go, hey, is this good stuff? Should this be even allowed to exist uh, like like it is currently? So we look at another popular kind of pornography today, and that is the vastly growing cam industry, right? That earns about $1 billion per year. And this is interesting because it shows that people not only want to just watch, and this is the important thing about cams to understand, is people don't just want to watch, they want to get to know. They want to get to know people that they're watching, and they want to get close to them. So we know that there's people that not just watch porn, but then there's people that want to draw closer to real people in a more intimate way so that they're dialoguing with them. And cams give people that opportunity. Cams can be relatively safe for the person who is doing the filming. They can be in their room, they can be in their house and do it. They don't have to go to some studio, right? Everything's right there. But also, it can be these people can be sex trafficked. We don't know who these people are a lot of times behind the cameras. So they very well could be coerced or forced to do what they're doing on the cams. So when you go to these cam sites, you have no clue who these people are. Supposedly they are over the age of consent, but we don't really know. So Jasmine TV, the world of cam sex, 24/7. You can go and be close and interact and get to know people and experience sex in a more closer way. And thing is sex trafficking is a intimate, close encounter. So we see when people are going from just being voyeurs to now wanting to talk and be a part of someone's life, we see them wanting to draw closer. That should be a flag that kind of goes up in the air. So the popularity of these sites do grow, right? You have what's the number one stream? Young, right? So people don't just want to get close because you might say, hey, well, what's wrong with getting close and getting intimate with someone if someone's a sex worker and all that? And yeah, okay, I get you. But people are into streaming young. They want young people, barely legal teens, right? So people are not just wanting to draw close, they're wanting to draw close to young people. So what is your age? Who knows, right? Who knows what your age is? Can you guess these people's age? Yeah. So when we look at what a lot of cartoon porn normalizes, we'll see that it's not just cartoon porn, but it's also real person porn. That incest and predatory porn is very, very popular, right? It can be a mom with her boys. It can be a dad with the daughter, right? What is this? Incest candy, something sweet, right? Daddies and daughters in love, right? This kind of thing becomes hugely impactful, right? And it's not that it's not arousing to see the images, but the images carry an idea with that, right? This is Jason and his aunt, right? Young Jason there, aunt pondering Jason, you know. Is it fantasy only, or for some, is it fantasy and predatory? Is it something where they really look at this and go, is that good? Now, in real life, all this would be considered illegal, right? So we see these are real people porn, right? Where you have younger woman. She looks of age, of course, but you have much older guy. Again, this is really risky right here, right? Older guy, and look, she looks really young. She's made to look really young. Stepdaughter, uncle, right? Here you see very predatorial look, right? A woman getting confiscated by a guy, that kind of idea. Molestation is not something to see as pleasurable or good. I don't think anybody would say that if a girl got molested by her uncle, that that's a positive. And so these are things that we need to question. So kind of go towards the end of our presentation and look at it again, that when we see people drawing closer to pornography, we see that in that they want to draw close to porn, and pornography has made that an option through the world of Gonzo. And so Gonzo is not this person, even though that's his name. Um, Gonzo is a type of filming style in pornography. So it's a style of pornographic film that attempts to place the viewer directly into the scene. Gonzo pornography puts the camera right into the action. So you might have seen this before. This is popular on most of the tube sites that you go to, where it looks like someone is just filming it. The camera is a part of the deal. Sometimes you can even hear the person doing the camera work. So that is considered gonzo. The other style of pornography filming is feature film porn. Those are more of the storylines that you see in pornography. Things of like, it has a plot and it's just pornography. They just have sex in it. But this is more of, close-ups with the cameras, the camera person's talking, even during the sexual acts themselves. So Gonzo is interesting because it brings you right into these acts of grooming right before your eyes. So they'll bring someone in to on a couch. This is Backroom Casting Couch. This is a legit company, legit porn company. So these are all legit people that sign contracts and things of that nature. But what they're doing is they're mimicking something. Someone comes in, they ask these young girls questions. Do you watch porn? She says, I was casting for fashion. He says, I can get you a job in the adult industry. And then there's a recruitment into the industry. How old are you? If you start this business, maybe you can buy a car. So you can see a grooming, a recruitment into a pressuring into being a part of the porn industry. Now, again, this is an act that they put on, but it very much mimics sex trafficking. If you've ever studied sex trafficking, then you'll read about times where people are at a mall and then they're asked, someone comes up to them and says, you're so pretty, would you like to get your pictures taken and come to here, da 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 da, and they go there and this is what happens. They sit down and they get asked these questions, and they're actually being recruited for pornography. So, here as another person, same legit company, right? Because you look very young. So, I am a model agent. That's what they say to her. I'm a model agent. I'll help you out. They say this is easy. Just take off your clothes. It's easy. It's an easy job. Again, pressuring, recruitment, exchange of money is going to happen. So mimicking sex trafficking or slavery, does pornography normalize slavery? It can. That's the crazy part. Porn can glorify the most horrible circumstances in what the adult video genres. So the assumption that violence, violation, and abuse that is shown in pornography is somehow consensual is just that. It's an assumption. It coexists with much evidence of force and coercion. That's again from the lawyer Catherine McKinnon. So you see that here's an older gentleman and he's taking these women by the neck, these young girls, right? Russian slaves, little sex slave. So sometimes the message is loud and clear that it is good to treat women this way. It is nothing's wrong with it. It's a part of the deal. So normalizing torture can happen, and this is popular, especially in a lot of old Japanese adult films. These kind of things are very popular, but they've become more popular even in the Western kind of world. So they mimic sex abuse and sex trafficking, putting people in cages, right? Locking them up, abusing them, all these things like that. It's a sexy thing, right? To act this way. It normalizes violence, and it ever escalates, desensitizing people, right? To think that torture is somehow sexy. So this is something that we should be looking at and going, whoa, I don't know if that should be there, you know. And so my sex slave is a classmate, right? She pleads with me with tears in her eyes. I need to train her to be my female slave, but I am too much into the moment to consider her plea. I need to train her so that she will do whatever I want, no matter how irrational. I dragged her into the men's room, or the men's restroom, right? So I think you get the picture. So we have things to think about, right? What does the allowance of this kind of pornography say about our society and cultural views as sex as entertainment and a commodity, right? Something to buy. So that's a good question, right? What does it say about you? What does it say about me? What does it say about how we view women? Yeah, and what is the impact on young girls due to the desire of men to view this kind of pornography? What kind of pressure does that put on young girls? What is the price of this kind of porn pleasure on the men who are seeking it? What does it do to us as men? So, writers of the Porning of America, Saraceno and Scott, great book, by the way. The Porning of America might be a really good intro book for anybody who's interested. But they say it is simple, glaring, and impossible to avoid. We have created a culture that puts our daughters in grave danger and leaves them to fend for themselves. So what's going to be the future with pornography? Don't know. And sex trafficking. Interesting. Maybe it'll go to robots, right? Maybe sex bots. That's the big thing nowadays. It's going to get more popular. Is this? We've all seen Ex Machina, and that was quite a movie about this idea of sex bots. You see another very popular series that came out not too long ago, Westworld, I think it is. But that's another one that has this kind of idea of robots in it. And it's something that's been thought of for generations. Back when I was young, I used to watch the old Twilight Zones, and they had one where a guy was in prison, actually on a rock, a planet rock. And what they did to help him out was they had a woman robot there to be a companion for him. So will sex trafficking cease to exist because now we have sex bots? And can people take their sex bots and abuse them any way they want, and do any kind of misogynistic, narcissistic behavior to robots, and that will maybe eliminate human sex trafficking? Who knows, right? Virtual reality, what part is that going to play in all this? We don't know. And there's all the gender talk as well. So there's a lot of things that are up in the air as far as where we're going. It shall be interesting. So hopefully you guys kind of get a good understanding now of the issues between sex trafficking and pornography and the blurry lines that are there. You always just got to remember that pornography can be sex trafficking. It can be, right? It can show it. It can mimic it. It can certainly have people under the age or people that are coerced that are doing it. And then there's a lot of pornography that is legit and that is nothing like this as well. So, but there is a lot of people that definitely do go in these directions of viewing, and we always have to think of, what does this kind of behavior on such, or what this kind of entertainment on such a mass level, so much of it's distributed so much to every parts of the world. What does it say? What does it speak to us of? And is there a way that we can curb sex trafficking, because it is such a gnarly criminal act? So is there a better way? So hopefully you guys got some good stuff out of there, and you guys can do a great paper on it for Melissa. And I just want to say thank you for letting me do this. You guys have a great one, okay? Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you could certainly ask me at Beau, B-E-A-U, at CCF ccftucson.org. That's Bo at ccftucson.org. You guys have a great one. Bye bye.